Hi everyone, I am Richard Penniston, Regional Director for New Wine in the Northwest, and Rich Amoy has asked me to share a little bit with you about this season and preparation and reading in the midst of it. I'm seeing this whole crisis in terms of phases of leadership, from the immediate response into the transition to a different world and a different way of being. We're now in the sustaining period, and rebuilding will come down the line. I'm finding a real tension, if I'm honest, in this phase. The temptation is to stay busy, to keep upgrading my online content, to keep writing resources, to keep meeting with other leaders, to keep finding ways to communicate with my church, to keep managing and keeping everything going. But the call of God I'm feeling right now is to take time with Him, to slow down, to let Him work on my heart. It's not a sabbatical, but it's a time to let God work in us, ready for what is to come. My heart, one of my prayers is that the church would emerge from COVID rested, refreshed and ready for the next stage. So what are we doing in this season to prepare for the rebuilding? I don't think I've got my head around the rebuilding yet, but Rich said would I share some resources that are helping me think about what's to come. So here's three of those. The first is this book, Lessons in Leadership by Jonathan Sacks. I've become a massive fan of Jonathan Sacks over the last couple of years, since I first read his book on Genesis, and I'm working through his series on the Pentateuch. His weekly reflections on the scriptures are bringing them alive for me. This book, Lessons in Leadership, takes from his 5 books on the Pentateuch the key messages for leaders, and I found him so inspiring. This stuff is gold. I was halfway through it when coronavirus struck, and in the first few weeks I really invested time into reading this book. The highlights for me were the contrast between the priestly and the prophetic roles of leadership, the value of both, the repeated call for leaders to be fearless, to be a non-anxious presence, catching some of the language of Friedman there. Some really valuable stuff on identity as leaders and the role of a leader in helping our community to live in and understand God's story. So get hold of Sacks. His Lessons on Leadership is useful for any time, but I think really pertinent for now. A podcast I'm listening to is A Blether by Jim McNeish and Kirsty Mack. Many of you may have been listening to that. Jim and Kirsty are both leadership coaches. I don't know Kirsty at all. Jim is a friend. Jim is a follower of Jesus. Kirsty isn't. But their insight and wisdom from the world of psychology and leadership coaching is fascinating in terms of what we're learning in this season and what it means for leaders to prepare for the opportunities for the next. There's a real prophetic edge to some of that, and it's utterly intriguing. The third one I want to mention is Reappearing Church by Mark Sayers. I imagine many of you have read this or you're having it recommended to you. It's been a book I've been longing to read, but last Saturday the Spirit prompted me that now was the time to start, and Saturday was a reading day for me. I got through at least 3/4 of the book already, and it is setting my heart on fire. Sayers' previous book, Disappearing Church, really dealt with some of the issues of secularism and the crumbling nature of the church, and some of the way that a consumer-driven church is in danger. This book is all about renewal. It's all about hope. It's all about what happens when a group of believers passionately commit to accountability, to pursuing Jesus, to God's purpose of renewal. And I'm just loving it. And when I had it on my shelf pre-COVID, I was like, well, once things started to change, will it still be relevant? He wrote this last year. It is so gripping right now. He even says in it, what if a global flu pandemic changed the whole structure of the world? So Reappearing Church is brilliant. I also believe Sayers has started a podcast, and in this season I'm looking forward to reading more of that, walking with a dog and processing. It's called Rebuilders. I haven't listened to it yet, so I can't really recommend it, but it's the next thing on my list that I want to resource. So I hope that helps you think about what resources you can be investing in now as we together prepare for the rebuilding of the church. But not just the rebuilding, but the renewing of the church. I do believe now is a crucial time. Now is a time where God is calling His church to dig deeper into Him, to change our ways, to change our patterns. The things we've been talking about for years, now's the time to do it. So keep reading, keep praying, don't rush, don't be too activist, and learn with other leaders, reflect with other leaders, find those who have those conversations with you that bring you to life. God bless you, and I look forward to seeing the church renewed, working together in the next season.